The Woman in the Mirror. This is a story from China. Some say mirrors are just glass, but in China there are those who believe they can hold things inside. Liu Wen had just moved into a small apartment in Guangzhou. The rent was cheap. It was close to her job. The building was old, but nothing seemed too strange. Except for one thing. In the bedroom, there was a large mirror mounted on the wall. The frame was made of dark, aged wood. Something about it felt off. She asked the landlord if she could remove it. The old man hesitated, then shook his head. It's best to leave it as it is. Liu Wen frowned. She wanted to ask why, but the landlord simply walked away. At first, she didn't think much of it. But a few nights later, just as she was about to fall asleep, she felt something. Something watching. She turned her head and saw herself in the mirror. Of course, it was just a reflection. Same face, same clothes, but something was wrong. The movements were slightly delayed. Her blinks came a fraction of a second too late. Liu Wen stared. Then, shaking her head, she lay back down. It's just my imagination. She closed her eyes, but the feeling didn't go away. One night, lying in bed, she turned her head again. This time, she saw it. Her reflection moved on its own. Liu Wen's heart pounded. She hadn't moved, but her in the mirror had turned and was staring right at her. She gasped and sat up. The reflection did the same. It was normal again. She swallowed hard. I must be exhausted. She switched off the light. The next morning, everything seemed fine. She stood in front of the mirror. But then, she noticed something. The fingers in the reflection. They were too long, reaching, grasping. That afternoon at work, she mentioned the mirror to a colleague. An older woman overheard. Her face went pale. An old mirror, you say? She whispered. In China, we believe that mirrors can trap spirits. Liu Wen laughed, but deep down, she felt it. The unease. That night, she made a decision. She was going to get rid of the mirror. She grabbed a tool and pressed it against the wooden frame. The moment she did, the lights flickered. Darkness for just a second, and in that second, her reflection smiled. Liu Wen froze. She wasn't smiling, but the woman in the mirror was, grinning, watching. Her breath caught in her throat. Number. That wasn't her anymore. Something else was in there. Something trying to get out. Liu Wen turned and ran. Her fingers touched the door handle. Then, tap, tap, tap. A sound from the mirror, as if something inside was knocking. The next morning, the landlord found the door locked. No sign of a break-in. No sign of Liu Wen. Everything was as it should be. Except for the mirror. Its once clear glass was now covered in faint fingerprints, pressed against the surface, as if someone was inside, trying to get out.